Do you remember the scene in The Matrix? Keanu Reeves as Neo sits across from Morpheus, staring at two pills, red and blue, deciding between truth and illusion. What if I told you that moment wasn't just a brilliant piece of movie magic, but carried a deeper echo from real life? There's a whisper among fans that this iconic scene was sparked by an unbelievable encounter Keanu had on a rainy Los Angeles night in the late 90s. An encounter with a lost man and a crumpled note. Grab a cup of coffee and settle in because I'm about to tell you how a single night changed one man's life and might have shaped cinema history. Keep watching, the story will hit you right in the heart. Chapter 1: The Man Lost in the Rain. It was the late 1990s. Los Angeles had surrendered to an unusually rainy night. The city, stripped of its usual shimmering glow, was cloaked in a gray veil. Streetlights refracted off the wet pavement, and neon signs flickered, breathing life into the raindrops. Keanu Reeves, then on the rise in his career, but not yet known for The Matrix, held a script in his hands. The reason he'd ventured onto these drenched streets? He was memorizing lines for his next role, mentally rehearsing scenes. The rain pelted his jacket, soaking the edges of the script, but Keanu walked on, unbothered. Escaping the noisy chaos of film sets and the endless demands of directors was, for him, a refuge. Keanu quickened his pace, though his mind lingered on the lines he'd read earlier that day. The script was science fiction, a complex tale of reality and illusion. The dialogue had turned into a puzzle for him. What is real? Could everything we know be a lie? The rain only deepened these thoughts. The city felt like a stage. Every corner, every light, a potential piece of a story, but right then, all he wanted was to get home, shed his wet clothes and sip a hot coffee. Yet a restless feeling kept him on the streets, as if something he hadn't yet noticed, was waiting for him. The faint glow of a street lamp struggled to pierce the curtain of rain. When Keanu looked up, he spotted an old man sitting on a bench a few yards away. The man's gray hair was soaked, his shoulders slumped, as if the weight of years had settled into his frame. He wore an old overcoat, its fabric drenched and torn in places. His hands rested in his lap, trembling as they clutched something, maybe a piece of paper, maybe a small object. Keanu couldn't quite tell. The man's head was slightly bowed, but his lips moved. He was muttering to himself. The sound of the rain drowned out his words, but the sight caught Keanu's attention. Keanu slowed his steps. Rain dripped from his jacket, but for that moment, he couldn't take his eyes off the man. Something felt off. This man didn't seem to belong on this street, in this rain. He looks like he needs help, Keanu thought. He walked closer, the cold drops carried by the wind stinging his face, and the muttering grew faintly clearer. Home. How do I find it? Where? Home. The words were jumbled, hard to piece together, but they stirred an ache in Keanu's chest. The man's voice was feeble, desperate, like a lost child trapped in an old man's body. Keanu stopped a few steps from the bench. "Are you okay?" he asked, raising his voice against the rain's roar. The man slowly lifted his head. His eyes were cloudy, his gaze lost. His face was etched with deep lines. His gray beard was wet, his lips trembling. "I can't find home," he mumbled, his voice faint but brimming with raw helplessness. Keanu stepped closer, his unease growing. As he looked at this drenched figure in the torn overcoat, he noticed the paper in the man's hands, crumpled, soaked by the rain, but still bearing legible writing. "Let me help you," Keanu said, his voice naturally soft. He bent down and gently took the paper. Keanu held his breath as he grasped the note. Raindrops fell onto it, smudging the ink further, but the words were still readable. 432 Maple Street. Beneath it, a more striking message. "If I get lost, take me here." Keanu's heart clenched. This wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a tangible expression of someone's desperation, someone's fear. He looked into the man's eyes, those cloudy gazes, searching for something they couldn't find. Who is this man? Keanu wondered. And why is he carrying a note like this? Keanu tucked his script under his jacket and made up his mind. "I'll get you home," he said, his tone blending compassion with resolve. He gently touched the man's arm, helping him up from the bench. The man nodded faintly, his eyes flickering with a momentary spark, as if he'd remembered something, though he didn't seem to know what. "Come on," Keanu whispered. "I can't leave you out here in the..." The rain had intensified, the wind howling down the street. But Keanu's mind held one thought. He had to get this man home. Supporting the man, Keanu walked along the street. Rain dripped from his jacket, his shoes squelching in the mud, but he didn't care. His eyes scanned for a taxi. Finally, he spotted a pair of headlights approaching. He raised his hand, and the cab slowed to a stop. Keanu opened the door and helped the old man into the back seat. Turning to the driver, he said, 132 Maple Street. His voice calm but firm. As the taxi pulled away, Keanu's mind buzzed with questions. Why was this man lost? And where will this address take him? The man's trembling hands, muttering lips, and that crumpled note lingered in Keanu's thoughts. A mystery waiting to be unraveled, and somewhere deep down, a quiet voice whispered, "Stick with us. Let's uncover this story together." Who was this lost man, and what secrets did his note hold? Was this night just a chance encounter, or something more? Chapter 2: Homecoming and Lily's Desperation. The taxi glided silently through Los Angeles's rain-soaked streets. Its headlights danced across puddles, turning the outside world into a blurry painting. Keanu Reeves sat in the back beside the old man, whose overcoat was drenched, hands still trembling. Keanu had all but forgotten the script tucked under his jacket. His attention was fixed on this lost stranger. The man's gray hair clung to his forehead, his beard glistening with raindrops. His lips kept moving, his murmurs blending with the sound of the rain. "Door, where, home." Keanu studied him more closely. The lines on the man's face weren't just from age, they seemed to carry the marks of untold stories. "What's your name?" Keanu asked, keeping his voice gentle, trying to bridge the gap over the rain's hum. The man paused, his eyes drifting into the void. "Henry," he mumbled, but there was a hesitation, as if recalling his own name required a battle deep within his mind. Keanu nodded slightly. "Henry," he repeated, as if saying it aloud could anchor the man to reality. As the taxi rolled through the dim glow of streetlights, Henry's muttering continued. "Mary, door, where?" Fragments of memories, disjointed sentences like missing pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit. Keanu pulled the crumpled note from his pocket. 132 Maple Street, and if I get lost, take me here. The rain had blurred the ink, but it was still legible. "Who's Mary?" he wondered silently. Though he didn't voice the question, Henry's tone made it clear the name carried weight. The taxi's engine couldn't drown out Keanu's thoughts. This man's lostness felt as real as a scene and just as mysterious. When the taxi reached Maple Street, it slowed in front of a small house. The garden gate was slightly ajar, warm light spilling through the fence, briefly cutting through the rain's chill. Keanu opened the door and helped Henry out, steadying him by the arm. "Come on, we're here," he said, his voice quietly encouraging. Henry's steps were heavy, his overcoat dripping, his shoes caked with mud. Keanu supported him while signaling a thank you to the driver. Double-checking the note? Yes. This was 1432 Maple Street. Just then, the house's door flew open and a woman rushed out. "Dad!" She reached Henry and threw her arms around him, rain streaming down her hair as relief flooded her voice. Henry stared at her blankly, his eyes suggesting he didn't recognize her. The woman took a deep breath, holding back tears, and turned to Keanu. "Thank God you found him," she said, her voice a mix of gratitude and exhaustion. "Thank you so much," Keanu replied. He seemed lost out there, slipping the wet note back into his pocket. He had the address. "I wanted to help." The woman, still holding Henry's gaze, asked, "Can I invite you inside?" "Please, you should warm up." Keanu couldn't refuse the heartfelt offer and nodded gently. "Sure," he said, a hint of relief in his tone. Stepping inside, Keanu was greeted by warmth. The living room was simple but lived in. An old couch, black and white photos on the wall, a small fireplace in the corner. The woman sat Henry on the couch, wrapping his shivering frame in a blanket. She turned to Keanu and introduced herself. "I'm Lily, Henry's daughter," she said. "Dad has Alzheimer's. Sometimes he wanders off like this. Keanu said. He had the address on him, pulling the damp note from his pocket and handing it over. I found that. Lily took it, her fingers trembling as she read. Her eyes welled up, but she fought back tears. He always carries it, she said, her voice fragile, but he still can't find his way home. Lily sat beside Henry, resting a gentle hand on his shoulder, but he didn't react as if no one else were in the room. Keanu watched, a pang in his chest. Lily paused, then took a deep breath, and continued. Lots of folks around here know Dad now. When he gets lost, they bring him back. The grocer Joe, our neighbor Mrs. Carter, even the cabbies. At first I'd go out looking for him, wandering the streets for hours, but I couldn't find him. Once I waited all night soaked in the rain, but there was no sign of him. The neighbors have been a godsend. They'll knock and say, Henry was out wandering again. Keanu said, that must be so hard. His voice laced with empathy. Lily gave a bittersweet smile. Every day, she replied, but I don't have a choice. I can't let him go. Keanu saw the weight in Lily's eyes. This young woman had set her own life aside to keep her father afloat. Henry's murmurs persisted, softer now. Mary, home, Keanu wanted to ask. Who's Mary? But swallowed the question. Lily's fragility held him back. I'm glad I found you, he said instead, his voice warm with relief. I couldn't leave him like that. Lily looked up, gratitude shining in her eyes. I'm so glad you were there, she said. Sometimes a stranger's help means more than anything. Keanu felt a chill despite the room's warmth. Henry's lostness, Lily's despair, a silent story echoing off these walls. His gaze caught a photo on the wall, a younger Henry, a smiling woman beside him, and a little girl in their arms. What happened to this family? He wondered. Henry's murmurs felt like an echo of that picture, and Keanu didn't yet know the truth behind that echo. What had driven Henry into the rain? And who was Mary? Would this night reveal more than Keanu expected? Chapter 3. The Cycle of Red and Blue Pills. The living room was a mirror of Henry and Lily's small world. The fireplace's flickering light cast shadows on the old photos, and the room's corners, housing a worn radio, a faded armchair, stood as silent witnesses to years gone by. Lily held her father's hand, adjusting his blanket, but Henry's eyes still roamed the void, as if he were lost even in this room in this moment. Keanu stood watching, his rain-soaked jacket still on, though he didn't notice the cold. Henry's murmurs, Mary, home, mingled with the room's quiet, resonating like a whisper. Keanu's attention drifted to a small box on the table. Its lid was open, revealing 2 pills, one a vivid red, the other a pale blue. They gleamed in the light, seeming more than ordinary medicine. What are these? He asked, his voice tinged with curiosity and unease. Lily looked up, her gaze settling on the box. A shadow crossed her face, as if the question's weight was too much. Doctor's pills, she said, her voice low and weary. Keanu pressed, what for? Stepping closer to the box. Lily took a deep breath, glancing at Henry, then back at Keanu. They're what turned Dad's life into a cycle, she said, her tone laced with bitter resignation. Lily straightened on the couch and began to explain. It all started when we lost Mom, she said, her voice a trembling thread. Dad and Mom were driving home one night. It was dark, the road slick. A truck veered out of its lane and hit Mom's side. Her words faltered, eyes brimming, but she pressed on. Dad was behind the wheel, he survived, but Mom, she died right there. Dad saw it all, the crash, the glass shattering, her last breath. Doctors said he was never the same after that night. He couldn't sleep, wouldn't eat, just kept reliving it, waking up screaming, Mary, no. Keanu's breath caught, the story's weight settling on his shoulders. Lily lowered her gaze. The doctors said Dad slipped into depression. The trauma had taken over his mind. Same nightmare every night. Same pain every day. So they started with just the blue pill. Keanu asked, what did the blue pill do? His voice a mix of curiosity and dread. Lily replied, it made him forget everything. The crash, Mom's face, that night Dad calmed down, could finally sleep. But after a while he started forgetting other things. Me, our home, even his own name. He'd wander off, get lost. At first, I thought, he'll come back, but one day he was gone for hours. Neighbors found him, Joe from the store said. Saw Henry on the street again, but that wasn't a fix. Keanu asked, "What happened next?" His voice soft but intent. Lily glanced at the box and continued. The doctor said, "We need to balance it," and added the red pill. The red pill brings his memory back. For a little while, he remembers what he forgot. He'd recognize me. Recall Mom, the good days. The first time he took it, he hugged me and said, "Lily, my girl." His eyes lit up, but then she stopped, her throat tightening. Keanu pressed. "Then what?" His tone expectant. Lily said, "It brings the crash back too." Some nights after the red pill, he's right there again, screaming, "Mary, no," hands over his face. It gets so bad the doctor has to give him the blue pill again. Her voice trembled. It's become a cycle, a battle between remembering and forgetting. We give him the red pill. We get Dad back for a few hours, but then that nightmare returns. We give him the blue pill. He calms down, but he forgets me too. The doctor said, "We need to find what's best for him." But I don't know what's best. Keanu stared at the pills in shock. Red and blue, two innocent-looking objects that had become weapons in Henry's mind. "That's a horrible choice," he muttered, a hint of defiance in his voice. Lily nodded. "I think he took the blue one instead of the red today," she said. "That's why he couldn't get home. He forgot me, the house, everything." Keanu's mind reeled. Henry's mind had become a labyrinth with these pills. Red offered truth, blue offered oblivion, but both came at a cost. Lily asked, "What was he like when you found him?" A flicker of hope in her voice. Keanu replied, "He was mumbling, 'I can't find home.'" He was confused, lost. Lily wiped her tears and whispered, "Because of the blue pill, he might have even forgotten me, his own daughter." Keanu's heart ached. This man's lostness went far beyond the physical streets. Henry's eyes remained fixed on a corner, his murmurs fading to a whisper, "Mary." Watching this, Keanu felt a storm brewing inside. Henry's mind was a battlefield with these pills. Remember or forget. Lily's tears said she bore the war's heaviest toll. He glanced at the wall photo. Henry, Mary, and little Lily, once a happy family. These pills, he thought, aren't a cure. They're a curse. But in that moment, he didn't yet know how this curse had shaped Henry's life, or how it might change something in his own mind. A quiet thought stirred. If this moves you too, stay with us. Let's see where this journey leads. How had these pills trapped Henry, and what would Keanu do with this haunting tale? Chapter 4. The script in Keanu's mind. Keanu Reeves had left Lily and Henry's home, and settled into the back of a taxi. The rain hadn't let up. Drops streaked the windows, blurring the world outside. The taxi's hum merged with the faint glow of streetlights into a rhythm, but Keanu's mind wasn't following it. The script for his next role, a science fiction story, sat in his lap, its edges wavy from the rain. But right then, he didn't care about those pages. His eyes drifted out the window, his thoughts lingering back at Henry and Lily's house. Keanu's mind returned to that small living room, Henry wrapped in a blanket, Lily's tear-filled eyes, the two pills on the table, red and blue. "Truth or oblivion?" he murmured, his voice lost in the taxi's drone. Henry's whispers, "Mary, home," echoed in his ears, haunting him like a ghost. Lily's story had sparked a tempest in his head. The crash, the blue pill erasing memories, the red pill resurrecting brutal truths. It was a story more real and painful than any film. Keanu set the script on his lap, his fingers brushing the damp pages. The story was about reality and illusion. A man discovering his world was a lie, guided by a mentor. But that night, Henry's tale had added a new layer. A man, he thought, forced to make the ultimate choice. The red pill brings everything back, the good and the bad, love and pain. Mary, Lily, those happy days. But also that truck, that crash, those screams. He closed his eyes, picturing Henry's cries after the red pill. Mary, no. A scene flashed in his mind. Henry trembling on the couch, eyes wide with terror. Keanu's breath quickened. But the blue pill, his thoughts continued, wipes it all away. The crash, Mary, Lily, even himself. Lily's words hit him. He might have forgotten me, his own daughter. His chest tightened. It wasn't escape, it was loss. He saw Henry lost in the rain, those vacant eyes, that confused muttering. The blue pill had calmed him, but at what cost? This isn't a choice, he muttered, a spark of rebellion in his tone. It's a trap. A question surfaced. What if we're all picking the blue pill to forget? Keanu pulled a soggy pen from his jacket and started scribbling notes on the script's margins. His fingers shook, but his mind was clear. These pills could be a metaphor, he thought. What if reality's a trap? What if everything we know is an illusion? And someone offers us the truth. Henry's story whispered a scene. A guide hands a man 2 pills. Choose, he says. Red wakes you up, shows the truth, but it's costly. Blue puts you to sleep, makes you forget, but it's a lie. Keanu's pen raced, jotting down, red pill truth, blue pill oblivion. He paused, staring at the words. Henry's choice, he murmured. If it were a movie. The taxi slowed in front of a studio. Its sign read, Wachowski Productions. Keanu clutched the script, resolve hardening on his face. Henry's pills, Lily's helplessness. That rainy night, they'd planted a seed. This idea, he thought, could change the script, maybe the whole story. As he stepped out, the rain had eased, but a storm still raged within him. Entering the studio, he'd made up his mind. He'd meet the director and pitch the scene. I'll tell them, he thought. A man offers another man 2 pills, red for truth, blue for illusion. But this choice is just the start. Henry's story deserves it. Stepping inside, a scene crystallized in Keanu's mind. A guide offering 2 pills and a man forced to choose between truth and oblivion. Henry screams from the red pill, his blank stares from the blue. For Keanu, this wasn't just a script, it was a question of reality. That night, he'd planted a seed, unaware of how it would grow into the Matrix's iconic moment. Would Keanu's pitch turn Henry's pain into a cinematic legend? What truths would this night unveil? Chapter 5: Reunion with Lily. It was 2000. Los Angeles basked in a sunny afternoon, streets buzzed with cars and laughter. The Matrix had stormed theaters, breaking box office records, stunning critics and captivating audiences. Keanu Reeves, now at the heart of its success, was an icon as Neo. That day, seeking respite from filming, he'd come to one of his favorite cafes. Sitting at a table, he sipped his black coffee, its aroma offering a moment of peace. His eyes drifted out the window, watching the crowd, but his mind was elsewhere. Keanu's thoughts slipped back to that rainy night in the late 90s, meeting Henry on those drenched LA streets. Henry's trembling hands, Lily's tears, the red and blue pills, the iconic Matrix scene. Morpheus offering Neo 2 pills was on everyone's lips, but for Keanu, it held more than cinematic weight. Those pills carried a piece of Henry's life, red reviving painful truths, blue erasing memories. He set his cup down, fingers tracing its edge. That night, he thought, changed something. Henry's choice reached millions. The cafe door's bell jingled, and Keanu looked up. A woman stepped in, a familiar face. Lily, Henry's daughter. Years had passed, but those eyes, that gentle expression, remained unchanged. Spotting Keanu, Lily's face lit up. She smiled warmly and hurried over. I recognize you, she said, approaching the table, her voice bright with excitement. Keanu, right? Keanu stood, surprised but pleased, extending a hand. Yeah, he said. Lily, so good to see you. Lily sat, setting her bag aside. You saved my dad that night, she said, locking eyes with him. I never forgot that rainy night, your kindness. Keanu took another sip, absorbing her words. How was Henry that night? He asked, his tone blending curiosity with sadness. He looked so lost out there. Lily paused, her gaze dropping to the table, as if she'd prepared for this but still wasn't ready. She took a breath and said softly, We lost Henry last year. Her voice cracked, but she smiled through tears. Alzheimer's took him first his mind, then his body, but that night, you brought him home. I've always remembered that. Keanu's heart sank. Henry's vacant eyes and murmurs flooded back. I'm sorry, he said, his voice low and sincere. I never forgot that night either. Lily pulled a small metal box from her bag. Henry's pill case. She opened it. Inside sat 2 pills, one red, one blue. I kept this, she said, her tone bittersweet. Dad's life revolved around these. Red brought me back to him, but also Mom's death. Blue erased everything, even me. Keanu's eyes widened, staring at the box. Those pills, just like the ones on the table that night, now a keepsake in Lily's hands. Lily looked up. I saw your movie, she said, awe in her voice. The Matrix, red and blue pills. Did you tell someone about that night? Keanu froze, setting his cup down. Her question struck like lightning. No, he said, hesitating. I didn't tell anyone, but that night never left me. Your dad's story, the red pill bringing back his past, the blue wiping it away, it added something. Lily's eyes sparkled. Really? She asked, hopeful. Keanu nodded. I pitched a scene to the director, he said, meeting her gaze. A man offers another 2 pills, red for truth, blue for illusion. Your dad's choice inspired it, remembering or forgetting, both with a price. Lily set the box on the table, her fingers brushing its surface. You turned Dad's story into a movie, she said, her voice a mix of wonder and gratitude. Those pills, they were a war in his mind. Red made him know me, but he'd scream, remembering Mom's death. Blue calmed him, but he forgot me, like that night on the street. Keanu looked at the box, a pang in his chest. I didn't know, he said, his voice soft but earnest. But that night showed me how messy truth can be. Henry's choice was more than a movie scene. Lily wiped her tears and smiled. Thank you, she said, relief in her tone. Dad's memory lives on, because of you. Those pills were a curse for him, but now they mean something to millions. Keanu dipped his head, feeling the weight of her word. That night, bringing Henry home, he said, maybe I found something too. Facing truth or forgetting, your dad made me question it. Lily picked up the box, glanced at it, then back at Keanu. You were a stranger, she said, but that night you were our savior. And now with this film, Dad's pain found meaning. Keanu finished his coffee, meeting Lily's eyes. That rainy night, Henry's lostness, Lily's desperation, it had all become a Matrix scene. But for Keanu, it was a deeper memory. The box in Lily's hand held Henry's legacy, and Keanu felt he'd touched a piece of it. Sunlight streamed through the cafe window, bathing their table, and a peace settled in him. Henry's story hadn't stayed in one night, it had reached millions. How had Henry's legacy lived on through the Matrix? What final truths would this reunion reveal? Chapter 6. The Dance of Reality and Fiction. The Los Angeles coast glowed under a sunset's warm hues. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky from orange to pink, then deep blue. Waves lapped gently at the shore, leaving foam on the sand before retreating. Keanu Reeves walked alone along the beach, wearing a simple black jacket, hands in pockets, steps slow but thoughtful. The Matrix's success still rang in his ears. The film had sparked a revolution in millions of minds. But right then, his thoughts weren't on applause or box office numbers. They drifted to that rainy night years ago, to Henry and Lily. Keanu stopped, gazing at the sea. The waves' rhythm calmed him, but the storm inside wouldn't fade. Meeting Lily at the cafe had brought that night back. Henry lost on the street, his trembling hands, his muttering lips. Mary, home. And those 2 pills, red and blue. Truth or oblivion, he murmured, his voice swallowed by the waves. In the Matrix, Morpheus offered Neo 2 pills, red for reality, blue for illusion. But for Keanu, that scene mirrored Henry's mental battle. Keanu closed his eyes, Henry's story vivid in his mind. The red pill had returned Lily to him. Those fleeting, beautiful moments when he'd hugged her, saying, Lily, my girl, but it also brought back the truck, Mary's final breath, his screams, shaking hands, terrified eyes. Remembering, he thought, can be the deepest pain. Then the blue pill Henry lost that night, forgetting even Lily. Forgetting's a loss, he whispered. For Henry, it wasn't a choice. It was a war, a cycle. His mind drifted to that taxi ride dream, a guide offering 2 pills. Choose, he said. But every choice has a price. Keanu touched a rock on the beach, feeling the wet sand. Maybe that night, he thought, reality and fiction merge. Henry's pills, Lily's despair. That rainy street, they'd become a Matrix scene. But for Keanu, it was more than a film, it was a question. What if we all picked the blue pill to forget? He wondered. What if reality's too heavy for the red pill's price? Henry's story had asked him, is facing truth harder, or letting it go? He had no answer, but it was the same question the Matrix posed to millions. Keanu recalled Lily's words at the cafe. Dad's memory lives on, because of you. One man's choice had birthed the film. Henry's red and blue pills had made millions question reality. Life, he murmured, turns into fiction in the strangest moments. Bringing Henry home that night hadn't just saved a stranger. It had opened a door in Keanu's mind. The Matrix had emerged from that door, but for Keanu, it was Henry's legacy. As the sun set, a final orange streak lingered on the horizon. Keanu gazed at it, peace settling in. Henry's screams, he thought, didn't fade into silence. They echoed in a story. Keanu took a few more steps, the waves' melody ringing in his ears. Maybe life, he thought, is made of these moments. Touching a stranger's story, letting it reach others. Henry's cries with the red pill, his oblivion with the blue. They become a dance in Keanu's mind, reality and fiction intertwined. Lily's box, those pills as a memory, told him Henry's pain had inspired a film and illuminated a truth. This dance, he whispered, still goes on, and as he walked, a quiet thought rose. If Henry's story resonates with you, stay with us. Let's see what other truths we can find. Leaving the beach, Keanu looked up, stars glittered in the dark, just as Henry's story shone in the Matrix. That rainy night had begun with a man's lostness and ended with a film's birth. Reaching millions, reality and fiction had fused that night, and Keanu was part of it. Henry's legacy lived not just in a movie scene, but in Keanu's soul, and that perhaps was life's greatest secret. Reality outshone fiction, but fiction could carry reality forever. Had Henry's tale ended, or was it just the beginning of a larger dance between truth and illusion?